My oil portraits start with a labor-intensive process. It involves making a mold and cast of each model's face. I sculpt the eyes and smooth out the plaster cast. This is followed by a version in resin, then applying a chrome layer, and finally adding artificial eyelashes. I then photograph the sculptures in different locations, like in nature after a snowfall. The photographs serve as references for the final goal, a hyperrealistic oil painting, which looks three-dimensional when finished. A painting at this scale can take over 3 months to complete. I describe the aesthetic as elaborate selfies because I can be seen in the reflections photographing the mask. As a challenge, I also photograph my sculptures in my hometown of New York City. Times Square has always been a favorite location because of all the intricate reflections of the signs and buildings. Returning to Times Square reminds me of my teenage years in the 80s when it was known as the Deuce. It was grimier then, but it always represented the heart of New York City. I love the contradiction between the symbols of commercialism and capitalism and the beauty of nature when I take my sculptures out into the world. Placing the sculptures in other environments adds nuance and changes the impact and context of the portraits. However, I see all my masks as modern-day deities, no matter where I place them. As the artist, I'm like a kind of zealot conduit between the spiritual plane and the natural world for these immortal characters. In different locations, I can also draw links to the elements. Here's a painting called Atlantis, where the model's mask was surrounded by water. Here's the same piece enclosed with red backdrops in my studio. Surrounding the sculptures in different colors and abstract shapes adds another dimension to the work. The masks seem less grounded in reality and more timeless. At the same time, the emotional and psychological impact of pure, saturated color inspires new ways of painting with oils. Each placement forces me to think about how to apply the color. Some colors require many layers to reach their desired intensity. When I think about how my work fits within the historic pantheon of portraiture, I see the connection to ancient realistic African sculptures. Ife heads made between the 12th and 15th centuries were also created with a mold process to represent immortality and spirituality. Here's a portrait of the rapper 2 Chainz, whose faith reminded me of these artifacts. To further expand my vision, I've also placed multiple sculptures together to study the relationship they have with one another. Here's a large-scale painting of my children Addison, Case, and Kent. Their sculptures were photographed in Times Square. For over a decade, I've been working on the Diovati over Chrome project. Throughout the journey, I've realized that although I've been making masks of individuals and exploring their different personalities, the mask also reveals something universal and mysterious about our collective humanity. They serve as inspirational avatars as I constantly look for new ways to express the human condition. I'm Kip Omalade.